You are listening to the Little Psychic Podcast with June Mack, which was formerly known as the Fully Woo Podcast. I hope you enjoy. Hi there, I'm your host June Mack, and you're listening to the Fully Woo Podcast. I'll be talking about all the fun woo-woo things in a down-to-earth, bright, light-hearted and easy to navigate way. Hopefully, I'll be able to help you ignite and light the way on your own spiritual journey and evolution too. In today's episode of the Fully Woo Podcast, episode 3, Psychic Myths and Misconceptions Explained, I am going to talk about some of the most common questions or comments that people who don't work in the psychic realm generally ask me. So questions such as, if you're really a psychic, why haven't you guessed the lottery numbers? Or what the difference is between a mediumship reading and a psychic reading? Or are you reading my mind right now? Is a question that some people have thrown out there. If you are interested as to how it all works, I hope you'll stick around for episode 3, and thanks for tuning in. Have you always wondered if maybe you were a little bit psychic? Well, this episode of the Fully Woo Podcast was brought to you by Bloom, my 101 psychic development mentoring program. Bloom is a 7-week experience to help you awaken your psychic senses, create a connection with your spirit guides, and enhance your own intuition. It's suitable for beginners, and you can learn more via junemac.com/programs. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Fully Woo Podcast, your modern day spirituality podcast. I'm your host, June Mack, also known as a psychic, clairvoyant, intuitive energy healer, earth guide, your intuition igniter. I like to think I'm pretty down to earth for a spiritual person and actually get joy out of talking about this spiritual stuff in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way and not always taking myself or what I do so seriously. Not saying my work isn't awesome though. So you can work with me in one-on-one sessions, in readings or healings, or in programs and memberships. I work in person or online, or even in psychic development. I work mentoring other people who would like to open up their own psychic abilities. You can check all of it out via junemac.com. But what are we talking about in today's episode? Today we are going to talk about a lot of the preconceived ideas or misconceptions or misunderstandings that people who may not be familiar with the woo-woo world may have about people who work in the spiritual world. Today I would like to talk about some of the most common preconceived ideas that people have asked me or commented to me about in my time working in the spiritual field. As with any information that is talked about in my podcast, this is only from my point of view and my own personal beliefs and opinions currently. And I know that there are many more opinions and ideas and ways that others work. So just take from this what resonates with you and obviously leave the rest. We are all constantly growing and evolving, so I might even change my mind too on some of what I'm discussing in the future. There is no judgment ever from me on anyone else. So these are just my current understandings or what I believe to be true, and how my guides or angels or the universe, whatever word you resonate with, this is the way that they have sort of communicated it with me or how it works for me personally. So with that in mind, where do I even start in regards to some of the ideas or misunderstandings that people have about people who work in the spiritual world? There's you should question things. Absolutely, that is a normal thing to do. And probably one of the most common things that I get or that I've heard is this thing about the lottery. So I've heard people say there can't be such a thing as psychics because if there was, then they all would have won the lottery at some point. And why this is not true for me, or why this is not true for me, probably is the best way to put it, is why I can't predict the lottery. So basically when you say psychic, for me, what a psychic reading is somebody who has the ability to tap into the energy of the future or a person's energy in the future and bring up some of the possibilities of things that are capable of happening. And some of you may have been to a psychic before, and there are things that are said that don't actually end up eventuating. And this does not actually mean that the psychic was incorrect. It's just a matter of when they tapped into your energy at that particular time, this is where your energy was heading. But we as humans have free will, and we have the ability to actually be able to change or pick things and change the course of our future. So, for example, I could literally say, or I could have been told, you're going to have 3 children by the time you're 28. And that's a lot of kids to pop out in a small amount of time. I might be 24 or 23 or something. And that just might be where your energy is sitting at that particular time. I might have 1 child and have a really bad sleeper and go, screw that. I'm just going to have 1 child. This is my personal decision. And having this 1 child has actually changed me in a way that was not first perceived when that psychic tapped into me, and I changed that course. So it doesn't always mean that what the psychic sees is not true. They probably have tapped into that. It's just that where your energy is sitting, you change your mind, you've had free will. So that's completely gone off tangent. In regards to the lottery, for me, it's not how my gifts work. And I do believe, or abilities, I do believe that everyone who, say, were to explore their psychic abilities or intuitive abilities would find that everyone has their things that they are better at doing. And some people are amazing at predicting or numbers or guessing, certain things like that, or maybe tapping into how do I explain it? So for some people, you could think of a number, or someone might think of the number, and the psychic would be able to actually pick up what that number is that you are thinking in your head. And for me, I have come to the conclusion at this point, I am not great at guessing things like that. So I've tried all of those exercises, where, you might not know, but there's, in the psychic world, when you're testing your abilities, there's actually an exercise that you can do where you would hold an Uno card the wrong way around and just see the back of the Uno card and guess what color or what number is on the other side. Whenever I've tried things like that, it's very hit and miss. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I am way off. So I wouldn't count myself as these are one of the things that I'm good at this point. So numbers for one are not one of my strong points. Mine is more tapping into the energy of the person. I could tell you how they are feeling and what kind of they've been going through at this current point in time. But when I'm going to try and guess, the number or a color that is behind a piece of paper, this is not my jam. There are definitely people that I know that you could have a picture, of a dog on one side and be looking at a picture of a dog, and the other person would guess what it is that you're looking at. Unfortunately for me, that's not my strong point. One of my strong points is tapping into your spirit guides, being able to help you with life path, soul purpose. I feel like this is my jam. That's my thing that I can help you with. When you're feeling lost, I can help push you back onto the right track and help you remember what it is that you came down here to do when it comes to guessing things like numbers, colors, and sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. So this is why a lot of intuitive people, they're all different. Not everyone's cup of tea is guessing lottery numbers. It's just not their thing. Another reason why is I'm not entirely sure. I am very big on psychic ethics. So I'm a big believer in karma, right? Sort of what you put out there, you will get back. If you're constantly sending out love and just good, vibes to people, you'll probably get a lot of that back. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not judging anybody else who has had a go at this for fun. I am not entirely sure if, for me, for example, it's the right thing to do to kind of try and cheat the system and channel that type of information for your own benefits. Not saying that if you are meant to win the lottery and you have an intuitive download just randomly of what numbers to pick and you pick them, that's probably definitely messages from your spirit guide saying you are destined to win the lottery. Here's the numbers, for the week. But I'm just not sure about purposely going in and trying to hack the system. Not sure, so I'm just going to stay away from it. You might have different beliefs. You might think, no, that's totally fine, and that is so fine for you to think too. I'm just not sure, so I just haven't even gone there. I've never actually even tried or thought about it just because I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do or not. I am also what you might call spirit-led. So I usually allow spirit to bring up what is important themselves when I'm communicating with them for myself. I do go in with an intention as well when I want to ask a question and want their advice for something, and I just honestly haven't thought about lottery numbers ever, and to this day they haven't brought it up with me. So I just haven't gone there. I don't usually use it to my advantage, the abilities for day-to-day things. For example, there was one time at a Christmas party where we were doing a secret Santa, but we had to go and pick which particular gift we wanted ourselves, and everyone was saying that's not fair because she's gonna know what's inside the things. I actually have no idea. I don't turn on my abilities just to be able to tune into which present is the best one to pick. Although I suppose I could and go with my intuitive feelings as to which one might be good for me. I just usually don't, but I'll go into that a little bit further in regards to how, for me, for example, I'm able to sort of turn it on and turn it off. My abilities, I mean. So another question that I've kind of got a few times is, if you know what's going to happen, then why do bad things still happen to intuitive people? So if you are working in the intuitive space, you've probably had something happen you fall over and then someone go, well, didn't you see that happening? You say you're a psychic. How did you not know that was going to happen? We are still human. We still make mistakes and fall over. There are many things we don't actually know. There are many things we aren't to know. There are many things that the universe, the divine, God, whatever you want to call it, your angels, your spirit guides, will not reveal to you because you are not to know the answer to this thing or to specific things. The whole reason we are here on earth in this incarnation is to learn and to grow and to evolve and change, and you keep going, you're continually learning, you're continually growing. This is what you would call an earth school. One of, I think I've mentioned before, my dad used to call it, playing the game, just playing Earth's game. It's our soul has come here to specifically learn things and to experience different things in different ways. And how are we supposed to learn or to grow if we know absolutely everything that's going to happen? There are many things that we are not to know what's coming up because this voids the whole reason or the whole process as to why we are here. We're not learning or we're not growing if we're just going to know what's happening time after time after time. There are many times in readings that I do for others, or when I'm trying to tune in for myself, where my guides have actually said, nope, we're not giving you any more information because you need to figure this out for yourself. And as a human, that can be so frustrating because it is a human thing to want to know exactly what is going to happen and exactly how things are going to pan out. It's normal to want to know these things, but that's just a human thing. What Spirit wants us to learn is to trust and surrender that what the intuitive information you might be feeling that's coming through, and to work it out by yourself. So, for example, in my readings, when someone asks a question that they're allowed to know a little bit of it, they might say like, what am I going to end up doing in the future? One, there's probably quite a few different possibilities because we really are the magician in terms of we have the opportunity to pick and choose exactly how it is that we want it to turn out. Like one of your purposes might be to work or one of your part of your life path might be to experience, being a light worker in this particular lifetime. And you can either step into this or decide not to. You might be too afraid. You might be too hung up. You might not be able to get over your own fears or judgments or self-doubt. So you might not go down that path. But sometimes people ask, well, how is it going to work out? What exactly am I going to be? One, we have the choice to sort of pick and choose as the magician of our own life how we want to work it. And there are many probably different possibilities and adjacent possibilities to how it could turn out. Two, they want us to go through and learn and grow it on our own. So when I try to pry for the information as to exactly what it is that this person might want to know, a lot of the time I'm met with what my clairvoyance picks up, or how I'm shown it. So clairvoyance is psychic sense of seeing. Spirit will literally roll down a roller door, like a garage door. I can give them little pieces, like I see you in this field, or I see you in management of some type, there's 3 people under you, but what it exactly is that you're doing. Sometimes when I try to pry further with Spirit, when I'm doing readings, for example, the roller door comes down. And that roller door for me is their way of saying this is something that they have to experience on their own. We'll give you little parts and pieces. We'll give you guidance for the next few steps. They often don't go so far into the future. They'll just give you the next few steps and how to intuitively figure out how, once they've completed those steps, to listen to or take on the guidance that they're going to give you after you've completed those steps. So they often wait for you to complete a few steps before they give you the next thing that needs to come through. So this is why, one of the reasons why, there are lots of things that happen in our lives which we don't know are going to happen. And that's why we still fall over. Maybe we're meant to fall over in a specific place and we need to grow or learn from it to, take us down 2 pegs in our, say you've got a big ego. Maybe they want to take you down. Spirit wants to take you down a couple of pegs. They're like, you're going to fall over and embarrass yourself and you will learn to be humble. It might be that, or it might just be because you've used your own free will and decided to take a slippery slope instead of going down the easy way. So it could just be a human error. So things like that. This is why intuitive people stuff still happens. We could do something silly like cross the road and make the choice to cross the road when there's cars coming. So obviously we're making that choice to do that because humans can pick and choose, and it's actually a really cool part of being a human. We have free will for so many different things in our lives. We can choose what we're going to do. Literally every day we are making the conscious decision to choose the activities that we do and that we take. And there are some things, this is just my belief, in our timeline that are meant to be there that we have to go through. There are other things, or there's many other things that we can manipulate or change depending on our own choices. So I've seen also other intuitive people, this has never happened to me at this point, but other intuitive people have shared with me sometimes abusive messages I've seen saying, they've done a reading for somebody and the person saying, you're a fake, you're a phony. You would have known, if you're a real psychic, that I've been in hospital for 6 months prior and blah, blah, blah. And just some awful messages that some intuitive people have received before. Like, shouldn't you know about this? The thing is, I'm spirit led, so I will bring up or communicate what they are showing me. And sometimes spirit doesn't go down the health route, or they're not going to tell you that specific thing. Maybe because sometimes they want the client to bring it up or the sitter to bring it up, or maybe sometimes there's more important things they want to get across. So we don't know everything. We can't possibly know everything. The way I work is I allow spirit to bring up what is the most important, and I trust them that they are going to bring up the most important thing. And sometimes maybe the 6-month hospital stay wasn't a thing that they wanted to bring up. Maybe they are concentrating on how to best move forward now and are concentrating on how to continue on your healing, and all this information might be coming up of how to move forward. They're not wanting you to dwell on the past. So there's those things as well. And sometimes I do know when bad things are going to happen. Sometimes when we can change things, we might have a warning of, you might get a bad feeling, like slow down on the roads, and then a kangaroo jumps out in front of you. Like sometimes I do get given warnings for things like that. Or I think I mentioned this in my last podcast, that I did actually know when my father, or that had an idea that he was going to pass away I basically was given a year's time frame. And it was an intuitive download that I had, that in this particular 12 months period, my dad is probably going to pass. So that was something that I do believe was in my timeline that I had to go through, that couldn't be changed. But sometimes when I receive intuitive downloads like that, it's something that I almost don't want to believe is true, because, no matter how old our parents are or how long they've been around for, if you have a good relationship with them, you never are ready for them to go. And I actually had my grandmother, so my dad's mum, come through to me about a month before Father's Day. So that would be, when's Father's Day? I think it's September. It was probably around August. And I was doing an automatic writing session with my guides. And if you don't know what automatic writing is, it's literally where you get yourself into a deep state sort of meditation, and then you start writing, and you can actually communicate with your guides back and forth and ask questions. Like when you get good at it, it takes some practice. If you're interested to know a little bit more about that, feel free to find me on Instagram and message me or whatever. Or maybe I'll bring it up in another podcast episode. But I felt my grandmother come in during this automatic writing. So my dad's mum, and she basically put her hand on my shoulder and she said, this is going to be the last Father's Day that you have with your dad. So please make the most of it and appreciate every moment. And it's making me emotional now talking about it. And make sure that you really savor this time that you have with him, because it's going to be the last Father's Day that you have. And I wrote it down in my journal, and I did make sure it was a damn good Father's Day. I made sure that we saw him, we all came and saw him, and I made sure it was really good. Obviously, I didn't want to believe it at the time. I even actually wrote at the bottom of this automatic writing, so in my journal it says, no, like I'm not ready. I never am going to feel ready. But Spirit were trying to give me time to process it, and I'm really, really grateful, because I did make sure that year in particular I was extra valuing our time together and really made that effort. So it actually got to like 11 months since I first had the intuitive hit that I was going to have 12 months with him, and I thought, it's not going to happen. Like, it must have been wrong, these feelings that I was getting. And it was around the 11-month mark, like almost exactly 12 months to the day, when my dad actually did end up passing. So occasionally intuitive people do get intuitive hits sometimes with things, but only when we are supposed to, and we are sometimes told about these things that are going to happen, but only if it's going to be of benefit to us, which I very strongly believe that it is going to be, that was of benefit to me. because I was able to make sure I really spent that proper time with him. And I take great comfort now in knowing that my grandmother, I know, so my dad's mum was one of the first people who I just know was to take my dad, and one of the first people that he saw when he passed over. And I know that they are together now. Like, I've tuned into the both of them together. So hopefully that's the end of my little emotional share there. But another answer to, in regards as to why sometimes we get things and why we don't. So for example, I'm very good at turning my abilities on and off. Some people are not. Some people really have trouble with shutting it down and are constantly feeling things from people around them. Like, what are these people kind of feeling? Or if they've got like a bad energy or a good energy, or they are constantly having issues with, maybe getting messages in for clients and things like that. For me, I'm so lucky at this point. I am able to almost put up my antennas. It's almost like turning on my antennas and putting them up and being able to receive information. And I'm really good at turning it off. So I have learned how to be open for business and closed for business almost. At the beginning, it was really hard for me, like especially when I first started doing readings. I would sometimes get a person who I would be reading for, like their guides literally waking me up in the middle of the night saying, oh my gosh, like when you read for, this person, please make sure you pass on this. Or even after reading, sometimes they were continually hounding me like, can you just tell her one more thing, like pass on this and pass on that. And I had to learn how to close off that portal to them almost and say, thank you so much for giving me that information for this particular reading, but can you please go and be with your person now and help them on their way to achieve, what it is they need to achieve. And if that person needs me again, send them back to me. And it's funny, like often there's, someone who I've read for before might be going through a difficult time, and it's like they're just driving along and all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, I need to book in with June. And I honestly believe that that's their guides going, it's okay, you need help with this and we know who can help you, so book in another session. So for me, I don't walk around like constantly channeling information. Most of the time, like now, my abilities, I will pretty much turn them off. And because for me, I like being in my human. I like not always, receiving this information. I like to chill out and, just do normal things. I like being ignorant to things sometimes. That is the whole fun of being human, is being completely ignorant to a lot of things. I chose to be human in this particular lifetime for a reason. Sometimes I just need to be mum me. Like I need to help my kids, color in something or what have you. And I'm not very good, or it's hard for me to be present with my children if I'm constantly getting messages all the time. So I'm really great at turning it off. When I am friends me, hanging out with my friends or going for a walk or doing things, I have them turned off then too, because I think it's personally rude to tune into somebody and without their permission. If they haven't opened up a conversation where they're like, well, what's your opinion on this? I might open up my intuitive abilities a little bit. But if they haven't opened up the conversation or they haven't given me permission, I personally see it as almost like going through someone's underwear drawer or naughty drawer without their permission. You wouldn't just go to somebody's house and start going through their things. So for me, that's kind of how it feels similar in terms of when I am reading for when I'm talking to other people or just hanging out with them. I don't have my abilities turned on. I will get absolutely nothing from you unless you ask me to, or you ask my opinion on something. Sometimes accidentally things start coming through. Like if you've said, oh, this is a situation with so-and-so, like, what do you think? Then occasionally my intuitive abilities might pike up, and I will usually ask your permission first. If I realize it's an intuitive hit and not my own ego talking, I will always ask for permission first. Do you mind if I share this with you? This is dropped in, because it's not always warranted. There are a lot of people that, I'm friends with. There are a lot of people out there that don't believe in this stuff, and that is completely fine. I've got lots of friends like that. As long as you're a good person, that does not bother me whatsoever. You can believe in whatever it is you want. You can believe in nothing at all. If you're a good person, you're a good friend to me. That's all that matters to me. So I will not always share what pops in because it's not always wanted. The person might not be into that, and that's totally fine too. It also, when I am channeling information or receiving information, it can take a lot of energy, especially in the beginning, because you are actually raising your vibration to be able to communicate with your spirit guides or with a passed over person. You as humans sit at one level of vibration, and your guides sit at an even higher one. So they need to lower their vibration to get messages to you, and you need to raise yours. And when we raise our vibration, it actually takes a lot of energy from you. So in the beginning, especially, I would get so tired after tuning in for myself to ask questions, or advice on things, or if I was tuning in for other people. What actually happens to me when I do raise my vibe or I change my perception to be able to receive is I get really hot. So it's different for everybody. This is just me. I get really hot. I get really flushed in the cheeks. I actually sweat quite a lot. It's so unattractive. It's so gross. And in the beginning, like, I am not a sweater, right? Like, I don't sweat much. I don't really even need to wear deodorant because I don't really get BO. Hate to be completely graphic for you. But when I channel information or when I've been doing readings for people, I have huge sweat patches under my arms after reading, and I stink. I smell. My husband said to me, babe, we've been together for 18 years. I have never smelt BO on you in our entire time together. We've known each other for 21 years. I've never smelt BO on you before. You've just come down from a reading and you freaking stink. Literally, he's like, you smell. But I can't believe I'm sharing this with you. It has gotten better over time. I am sweating less. I still get really hot, but it's been taking less energy because it's almost like my body's gotten used to it. So that is another reason why I don't or maybe possibly other intuitive people don't go around just channeling all the time, is because it actually takes a lot of energy. So that's just my personal experience with it. There's a lot of people that think I don't know if you've seen Anchorman 2, but for those of you that have seen Anchorman 2, you know how he's like, you reading my mind right now? Type thing, can you read my mind? And he goes, to punch him, and he's he ducks from the punch, and he's like, you're reading my mind, you know what I'm thinking. That's totally not what it's like for me. Like I mentioned before, it's rude to tap into somebody without their permission. I don't think it's ethically right. I will always, if I've got their permission for a reading, obviously I have your permission to tap into that energy. Takes a lot of, again, using the word energy from me to do it. So I don't just walk around doing those types of things, and I wouldn't even see it. So my abilities don't work as in actually reading your mind, what you're thinking. I will more get impressions as to where you're at currently and what you sort of been going through. And spirit will bring up things that you need assistance with at this particular time. I couldn't tell what you're thinking. You could be sitting across me thinking, and tuning out and thinking about your kids. I actually probably wouldn't pick that up. I could pick up if you're not into it and you have a resistance or a skeptical emotion behind it. Do you know why I will know though? Because those people are always harder to tap into. If your energy is not open and you're not open, or you're a little bit skeptical, it is actually harder to tap into people like that because they're closing off their energy. Another misconception, so moving along, is that a lot of people are afraid to, or misunderstanding around psychics, is a lot of people believe in it, but they're actually too afraid to go because they're scared that we are going to tell you something bad. So I personally, this is just how I work. There are obviously lots of different ways that it can work. Is that for me personally, when I do readings, I actually set boundaries with spirit and I let them know. First of all, I always say, please connect me with, say the person's name is Greg. Please connect me with Greg and please give me the information on everything that he needs to hear and everything that he is ready to hear. And I also have already previously set boundaries with Spirit that if something cannot be changed and I can't help you, and there is no good that is to come out of, you knowing this particular thing, please don't tell me or don't let me know. So that is the boundary that I have set with Spirit. So I personally will not get something that's negative unless it's something that you are okay with hearing. And if it's something that you are okay, that I can give you advice for, and something that you can get guidance on. So not saying that there possibly are other people out there who might work differently. I'm just speaking from my own perspective. So there's also another question that people have asked me is, do you literally just walk around talking to people that have passed over all day or my guides? For me, no, like I mentioned before, I turn it on and off regularly. Mainly it would probably be my guides. I personally don't tune into anyone passed over unless I am needing to for a reading. I don't sort of just call them in. Otherwise, there is also a difference between a psychic and a mediumship reading, or a difference between someone who might identify as a psychic and someone who says, I don't like to do psychic work, but I do mediumship. And a lot of people don't realize some people think if they go to a psychic, they are automatically maybe going to be able to communicate with someone who has passed over, and that is not the case at all. I also have medium friends who don't like to do psychic readings. They only like to do mediumship readings. So what is the difference? I call myself a psychic because it's mostly the thing that people who don't work in the spiritual world might be able to understand, I suppose, as to what it is that I do. But for me, it's more about the guidance. So I'm actually doing a guidance reading more than actually telling you about the future, because I believe that I am here to help you to navigate what's coming up in your current events, to help to improve your future. So there might be a couple of things that pop in, like, I'm very good at predicting pregnancies. One of the things that comes up a lot is, if a baby's about to pop in, or I can feel a baby's spirit, like close to the mother. That's something that is what you would call psychic, because it's sort of predicting something that's going to pop up into the future. But most of my readings is definitely is guidance, because I believe, what's the point of telling you things that are going to happen if I can't help you through it? So I hope that makes sense. But what the difference is really is a psychic reading or a guidance reading is to tune into your energy, or it's tuning into the energy of the living. This is kind of how I imagine it, and being able to see where your energy is at now, what issues are you facing, how are we going to best navigate through this. So that's more like what a psychic or a guidance reading is. Mediumships communicate with spirits. Mediums communicate with spirits, or mediumship is the ability to communicate with spirits. And there are actually some psychics who don't do mediumship readings, or it's not their thing that they enjoy, and vice versa. So you shouldn't really go into a mediumship reading expecting to get advice about the future, because it's more about communicating with this passed over spirit usually, although sometimes the person who's passed over will give you some advice about the future, and vice versa. You shouldn't assume just because you are booking a psychic reading that someone who passed over is going to come through, because for me that's not how it works. Communication, for example, in psychic readings helps. This is another difference. So if I am doing a psychic reading for someone, sometimes I need to ask you a question to get better clarification as to how a situation is, to be able to get clearer intuitive insight and to give you better guidance. It's better for me to talk to you and understand what is happening better I can give you better guidance that way, is if I fully understand better. So I might get the intuitive feeling that you've had anxiety and that something's a little bit off in a current work situation, but I might not know all the nitty-gritty finer details. So it helps for me to say, this is what I'm feeling. Does this make sense? How do you place this? And you might say, yes, I'm currently in a work situation that doesn't feel quite right. I feel very lost as to whether I should be finding something else or changing, roles or blah, blah, blah. And then that helps me to then know where it is or what your spirit guides are going to help me understand where you should be going next. So communication in psychic readings does help. In mediumship readings, sometimes if the sitter or the client speaks too much, it can hinder the connection with the passed over spirit. It's actually quite hard to hold a link. And in the beginning, especially if you're a new medium, speaking to the sitter or the client when they talk, it can sort of break that link. So it does take practice to be able to hold the link with the passed over spirit and still communicate with the person that's sitting. So usually, especially if you're just new to mediumship, it's better if the sitter just says yes, no, maybe, I don't know type thing, and then talk about it afterwards. So I also, one last sort of thing I kind of want to talk about before I wrap it up is a lot of people say, I don't think you should go and get a psychic reading because you're not meant to know what happens in the future. And that's completely fine. I totally understand that. But I don't necessarily see it as just knowing what's going to happen in the future. Like I mentioned before, see it as I'm honestly just tapping into your angels or your guides. They're there to help you anyway. They've often been trying to give you this information or send you the intuitive hits that you haven't been receiving for some reason or another. Maybe your own analytical mind has been getting in the way of this information and you're talking yourself out of what you are intuitively feeling, or you don't recognize that this is actual messages from your guides or your angels. And basically people come to me because they can't hear that guidance themselves, or they don't understand almost how to decipher it. So that's what I'm for, is to relay it to you from your guides. And often, more times than not, when I have people who come to a reading, they go, oh my gosh, I totally knew I was supposed to do that. I've been receiving that information. I just haven't been doing it. But now that I'm hearing it from you, I believe that information that I was getting was correct. And they actually get better at their own intuition and using it in the future because they understand they are actually already receiving this information. So for me, it's almost just like I'm a translator and I'm translating the information that they've already been trying to help you with. I believe it is your birthright to communicate with your guides. That's actually why they're there, or your angels. They are there to help you navigate Earth, to navigate this life. And it is our right to actually communicate with them. So that's just my belief. I understand and totally respect other people's religious beliefs that you shouldn't be tapping into this information, but that's just how I perceive it. Mediums, a lot of people think we shouldn't be communicating with those that have passed over because we're conjuring them away from somewhere, or we're taking them out of heaven to communicate. And for me, that's not how I understand it either. How I understand it is that the spirit world is all around us anyway. They are all around us. They are just at a much higher vibration that it's hard for, normal people or everyday people to be able to lift our vibration and connect with them. When I connect with someone that has passed over, I'm not conjuring them from anywhere. It's not like us humans where I'm in my bedroom right now. You might be going for a walk and we are in this one place. When you're a spirit, or when you've, passed over, you can simultaneously be in heaven, be going through healing, living your best life or spirit life, and simultaneously be watching over your son, your grandson, your wife, all at the same time. You can be with them and be helping them and kind of helping to guide them from the other side, all while being in heaven. It's not the same as us humans that are in one place at one time. It's just, it's really hard to wrap your head around, I know, coming from a human perspective. And I am not actually conjuring them from anywhere. I'm simply shifting my perception from the human world into the spirit world, because the spirit world is all around us anyway. It's just at a higher vibration. I'm raising my vibration. I'm shifting my perception to them. I am shifting to them. They are not coming to me. I'm not pulling them away from anywhere. I'm sort of going to them, if that makes sense. It's all very hard to sort of explain and understand, but that's what I believe, is that they often are trying to tell us that they are around anyway. Love, pride are some of the most common messages that come through. Peace, and they have often been trying to send you messages anyway, you know, like little things that you might see, like a butterfly or a bird, a ladybug, whatever it is that reminds you. You might pick up and find coins, you might see feathers. There's all these little things that they do that are trying to give you messages to say that they are there, they are still with you. And a medium is someone, they call them a medium is because they are sitting in, it's like they're sitting in that medium vibration. They've risen their vibration to connect with the passed over loved one, and the passed over loved one or your guides have to lower theirs, and you're meeting in the middle. That's why they're called a medium. So that's kind of the difference between the two. For me, I actually don't, at this stage, I am not offering mediumship readings. I just, if they happen to come through in a psychic or a guidance reading, I of course will relay that information, but it's something that I have on my goal list, is to feel like I am good enough at mediumship to be able to offer it as a lone offering, a mediumship reading, because I put a lot of pressure on myself. I feel like my mediumship is not at the absolute pristine spot where I want it to be. And a lot of people are saying, like, you know, it's fine, you're doing amazing, just release it as an offering, you can do it now. But I'm still working on it. So that's just where I'm currently sitting at. Yes, I have the ability to be able to do it. I just want to be better before I actually release that as an offering. But psychic guidance readings, come and join. Come and sign up. There's also obviously that the biggest thing is that all psychics are frauds. They're just ripping you off. And there are a lot of people out there that probably are like that. I haven't met anyone in particular myself, because I don't tend to go in or mix in those circles. But majority of them are 100% legitimate. If you are looking for a good one, word of mouth or by other people's experiences is obviously a great way to go, because if someone's had a great experience with them, then, you know, you possibly can too. And I invite you all, if there's someone that's listening that is not inside the Enchantress Circle on Facebook, it's my free spiritual group, and it's full of light workers. It's full of psychics, healers, mediums, energetic healers, all types of people that do Reiki, healers, all types of people that do different things, shamanic drums, shamans. There's everything in there. If you're looking for someone to refer you to other people, or for someone that's in there that's legitimate, I have not come across anyone that's not legitimate in that place. So feel free to jump in there and to ask for other people's opinions as to where they should go. So that is the end of this podcast on, common misconceptions or preconceived ideas, or myths, if you call them, about people that work in the intuitive space. I hope I've been able to shed a little bit of light on the topic. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you have opinions, thoughts. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at Ms. June Mac. If you liked this episode, please follow me, rate it, like it. Please share it with your friends. Tell your friends, because I'm trying to get and grow the word about, spirituality, and that trying to normalize it, if you will. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you for episode 4 in a week's time, hopefully. Bye. I'm June Mack, and I wanted to thank you for tuning in to the Fully Woo podcast. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have had you here. You can find me over at junemac.com or on all social media as Ms. June Mac. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much if you could please subscribe, rate, review, and share. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a privilege to be in your ears.